You know that feeling when you have just poured your absolute soul into something? Like you are sitting in front of your digital audio workstation at, what, 3 in the morning?
Oh yeah, the screen is just burning a hole in your retinas.
Exactly. And you've spent weeks, I mean, maybe even months, tweaking the EQ on a single snare drum. You're balancing the vocal layers perfectly, and you finally hit that export button. You send final WAV file out into the digital universe, utterly convinced that, like, this is the track, this is the one that moves the needle.
And then you just get crickets.
Crickets. Or, worse, you wake up to a wave of those polite, completely templated rejection emails from playlist curators. You're just staring at your phone, and you want to scream, why is my incredibly good music being ignored?
It is a profoundly frustrating thing. It's an almost visceral experience, really. Because releasing music feels so incredibly personal.
It really does.
Right, so a rejection doesn't feel like someone just passing on a product. It feels like a direct judgment on your talent, your taste, and honestly, your worth as a creator.
Yeah.
You are left staring at this beautifully crafted sonic landscape you made, just feeling completely invisible.
It drives me absolutely up the wall because I know the music is good. My peers know it's good. But the gatekeepers, these playlist curators who hold the actual keys to getting that music into the ears of thousands of potential fans, they just keep passing.
Yeah, it's a massive roadblock for independent artists.
Right. So, okay, let's unpack this. We are dedicating this deep dive to diagnosing this exact pain point. We are pulling back the curtain on the whole music curation industry, specifically focusing on the invisible criteria that separate a yes from a no.
And to really get to the bottom of that, we are leaning heavily on a fascinating, highly detailed guide published by Daily Playlists in June 2026.
Yeah, and we should mention why we're trusting their perspective on this. You really have to look at the sheer scale of their operation to get it.
Right. Since 2017, this platform has facilitated, over 7 million playlist placements. They are coordinating with over 1 million artists and an active network of over 40,000 curators.
So they aren't just guessing here. They have the back-end data on millions of transactions. They know the actual structural reasons tracks get passed over, far beyond that generic, not a fit for me right now, auto reply we all hate.
Exactly. And looking through their data, it seems the single biggest trap independent artists fall into is confusing the concept of good music with the concept of the right music.
Which is such a hard pill to swallow.
It is, but it's the foundational misunderstanding. According to the Daily Playlists data, genre misalignment is actually the absolute most common culprit for rejection. Artists fundamentally misinterpret what a playlist curator is actually doing.
Okay, I have to admit, my instinct as an artist is to push back on this a little bit.
I figures you might.
Well, yeah. If a song is an absolute, undeniable banger, shouldn't a curator just make room for it? Good music transcends genre labels. If I send someone an incredible piece of art, why do they care if it strictly fits their hyper-specific little subgenre?
I hear that frustration all the time. I really do. But you have to look at the architecture of streaming platforms. Curators aren't like art critics looking for objective masterpieces. They are ecosystem builders.
Ecosystem builders. Okay, what does that mean in practice?
Think of a playlist like a highly specialized restaurant. If you open a restaurant that promises a 10-course, vegan-tasting menu, and suddenly you serve a perfectly cooked, Michelin-star Wagyu steak.
My vegan customers are going to walk out.
Exactly. It doesn't matter that the steak is a culinary masterpiece. Your customers are gone. And in the streaming world, walking out means hitting the skip button.
Right, which is the kiss of death.
Precisely. If a curator builds a bedroom pop playlist, they are making a specific promise to their listener about the exact vibe, the tempo, and the energy level they're going to experience for the next hour.
So if I drop a booming, heavy bass trap song into a chill, ambient list meant for studying,
the listener gets jolted out of their focus. They hit skip.
And I'm assuming the algorithm notices that behavior. Like, Spotify doesn't just ignore a massive spike in skip rates on a specific playlist, right?
Oh, the algorithm is ruthless about retention. If a listener abandons a playlist because a track broke the vibe, Spotify penalizes that curator's algorithmic ranking.
Wow, so the playlist actually drops in search results.
Yeah, and the curator loses their influence.
Yeah.
So when they reject your beautiful lo-fi jazz track for their synthwave collection, it's not a critique of your brushstrokes. It's basic survival. They are protecting their ecosystem.
Oh, okay. I can accept the restaurant analogy. You don't pitch steak to a vegan. I get it. But let's say I get the targeting perfect.
Okay, you found the right fit.
Yeah, I find the exact right chill ambient playlist. I submit my undeniably chill ambient track, and I still get a rejection email. If the genre is right, what breaks the spell?
That brings us to the physics of the audio itself. Even if the vibe is a perfect match, your track has to compete sonically with established staples.
Wait, compete how? Like volume-wise?
Volume, clarity, everything. When a listener is streaming a playlist, your independent bedroom recording might play immediately after a massive hit produced by someone with $1 million studio budget. If there is a noticeable drop in fidelity, the illusion shatters.
It's like broadcasting a pristine 4K movie and then suddenly cutting to a grainy VHS tape.
Exactly. The listener is going to instantly realize something is wrong. And curators are highly attuned to those drops in quality.
What specifically are they listening for? Just overall polish?
They are listening for muddy mixes where the frequencies clash.
Like a bass line that completely swallows the kick drum?
Right, or harsh, piercing vocals that aren't leveled properly.
Mm.
But one of the biggest, most structural reasons for rejection at this stage is audio fatigue.
Audio fatigue?
Yeah, caused by overcompression.
Okay, let's unpack the mechanics of that, because audio fatigue sounds a bit abstract. I know a lot of producers, myself included sometimes, just throw a limiter on their master track and crank the volume so their song sounds as loud as the radio hits.
And that is exactly the problem. Pushing the volume to the absolute maximum crushes the dynamic range of the song.
The dynamic range being the difference between the quietest and loudest parts of the audio.
Right. When you compress a track into a solid brick wall of sound, every snare hit, every synth pad, every vocal breath is hitting the ear at maximum intensity.
And from a biological standpoint, the ear really doesn't like that.
It physically exhausts the listener. The tiny muscles in the human middle ear actually tense up to protect the eardrum from loud, sustained noises.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it was a physical reaction.
It is. If a song has no quiet moments, no breathing room, those muscles never get to relax. After about 2 minutes of a hyper-compressed track, the listener will just feel tired of the song without knowing why.
And a curator knows that if they put an exhausting track on their list, the listener will just turn the playlist off.
Exactly.
So the barrier to entry is professional mastering. But let's be real here. Professional mastering engineers charge hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars per track. If I'm an independent artist working out of my garage, how am I supposed to compete with that level of acoustic physics?
Well, the landscape has fundamentally shifted on this front. The Daily Playlists Guide is very explicit that you no longer need a massive budget to meet the baseline for professional fidelity.
Really? What do they suggest?
They actually recommend leveraging AI mastering tools, things like Landar or Isotope Ozone.
Oh, I've heard of those.
Yeah, these algorithms analyze the EQ curves and dynamic range of industry standard tracks and automatically adjust your DIY mix to match those commercial standards.
That levels the playing field so much.
It really does. You also have tools within the Daily Playlist dashboard itself, like their Track Explorer, where you can get objective technical feedback on your audio before you ever even submit it.
Okay, so let's say we've checked those boxes, we've matched the genre, we've utilized AI mastering so the dynamic range is perfect. No ear fatigue, no muddiness. We export the flawless WAV file.
Sounds like a winner.
Right. But reading through the data, it seems the audio file is only half the pitch. Because a perfect-sounding song can still be instantly rejected if the metadata surrounding the artist is a mess.
Oh, absolutely. Curators are looking for a partnership, not just an MP3. They invest a lot of time evaluating your digital footprint.
So if they click through to your Spotify profile and see a default gray avatar,
or a missing bio, or social media links that go to deleted pages, they are going to pass.
I would guess that comes down to a lack of reciprocal value, right? Like, if a curator features my song, they want me to share their playlist with my audience. But if I look like a digital ghost, I clearly have no audience to share it with.
It's the reciprocal value, yes, but it's also about risk mitigation. A blank or inactive profile is often the first indicator of fraudulent activity. Curators are terrified of algorithmic pollution.
You're talking about bot streams and fake engagement.
Exactly.
I'm assuming curators dig into the discovered on data for that. Like, if they look at an artist's profile and see 50,000 streams originating from one unlisted playlist in a single city, but the artist has 0 Instagram followers and 12 monthly listeners everywhere else.
That is the exact red flag they are hunting for.
Wow, so they really do their homework.
They have to. If a curator adds an artist who uses bot farms to inflate their numbers, that fake data bleeds into the curator's ecosystem. Spotify's algorithm uses listener behavior to build the fans also like sections and automated recommendations.
Oh, I see. So if an artist brings an army of bots to a legitimate playlist, it confuses the algorithm about who the playlist is actually for.
Which can permanently damage the curator's reach. You have to prove you are building a genuine organic audience, even if it's a really small one.
So an active, authentic profile is mandatory. But here is where artists can fall into a really frustrating trap. Let's say my profile is hyperactive. I am plugged into the culture, I'm posting every day, I'm watching all the trends.
Uh-oh.
Right. Because ironically, being that plugged in often leads to the fourth major reason for rejection, which is market oversaturation.
It is the curse of the extremely online artist. They see a specific sound blowing up, maybe a hyperpop drum pattern or a specific vocal chop goes viral on TikTok.
And as an artist, your brain immediately goes, I can do that. I've totally done that. So you spend the next month dissecting the production techniques, writing your own version, mixing it, mastering it, and getting the artwork ready.
But by the time you actually pitch that track to curators, 3 months have passed since the trend started.
Yeah, and the curator's inbox is already a graveyard of that exact sound.
Exactly. They're receiving 50 identical-sounding submissions every single week. From the curator's chair, they just don't need a slightly later, slightly less original version of a sonic formula that already dominates their current rotation.
It's just redundant for them.
Right. If your track heavily relies on overused viral samples, it's just going to blend into the white noise of their submission queue.
So the actionable advice here is clearly to stop trend chasing and focus on niche targeting.
Develop your own gravity instead of trying to orbit someone else's trend.
I love that. Develop your own sonic signature that is undeniably yours, and then find the smaller, specialized curators who are actively looking for something fresh within their subgenre, rather than trying to elbow your way onto the biggest pop playlists.
Exactly. It's a much more sustainable strategy.
Okay, but let's take this to the absolute final boss of the curation world.
Let's hear it.
I have a totally unique sonic signature. My digital footprint is authentic and spotless. The track is mastered flawlessly and fits the genre perfectly. I hit submit, and I still get rejected.
Ah, well, this brings us to the human element.
Mm-hmm.
The fifth reason for rejection is simply curator preferences and internal politics.
So just subjective stuff.
Yeah. We spend so much time analyzing algorithms that we forget there is an actual human being with personal tastes, moves, and schedules sitting on the other end of that pitch.
I imagine a lot of this just comes down to bad timing, right? Like, maybe they just featured 3 synthwave artists on Tuesday, so they don't want another one on Wednesday, no matter how good it is.
Scheduling is a massive factor. Or, they might be taking a week off from reviewing new music entirely.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's purely subjective taste. The track hits all the genre requirements, but the curator just doesn't personally connect with the emotional tone of the vocalist.
Which you can't really control.
No, you can't. And increasingly, we are seeing curators implement hardline philosophical policies too, like refusing to feature any track that utilizes AI-generated instrumentation, regardless of its quality.
Right. So if a portion of these decisions are based on subjective human whims and behind-the-scenes scheduling that I can't possibly predict, how do I play the odds?
That's where strategy comes in.
Because I know Daily Playlists operates on a tiered system with standard and premium submissions. I understand how a basic freemium model works, but strategically, what does the platform's data say about the actual return on investment? When is it worth opening your wallet?
Well, you really have to look at the tiers as different tools for different phases of your release cycle. Standard submissions, which are free or very low cost, are your discovery engine.
Okay, so how do we use those?
You use these to cast a wide net towards smaller, highly niche playlists. It allows you to test the waters, gather data on which sub-audiences are actually retaining your track, and build your initial streaming metrics without burning your marketing budget.
So standard is for data gathering and slow building. Where does premium come in?
Premium buys you guaranteed attention and speed. You are paying for priority review and, in many cases, mandatory feedback.
Which is super valuable.
Extremely. You deploy premium credits when timing is critical, like launch week, when you need a fast yes or no from busy curators who are frankly ignoring thousands of free pitches. You also use it to target the massive, highly competitive mainstream playlists, where a standard submission would just get buried at the bottom of the inbox.
So you pay to skip the line when the stakes are highest.
Exactly.
But, whenever you introduce paid priority in the music industry, you inevitably introduce people trying to game the system. And the guide drops a pretty severe warning about something called gate abuse.
Yeah, gate abuse is the dark side of the premium tier, and artists really need to be highly vigilant about this.
What exactly does it look like?
It happens when an unscrupulous curator accepts your track, giving you that initial dopamine hit of a successful placement. They collect your premium credit or payment, and then they remove your song from the playlist like 12 hours later.
That is infuriating. They are essentially farming the platform, churning through desperate artists to harvest credits, and the artist gets absolutely zero algorithmic benefit from a 12-hour placement.
None at all.
So how do we use the data to spot these farms before we pitch them?
You have to audit the curator's playlist history before you submit. The Daily Playlists dashboard actually gives you visibility into this. You are looking for a healthy ratio between track counts and update frequency.
I see. So if a playlist has, say, 50 followers, but the curator is adding and removing 400 new songs every 3 days?
The math doesn't add up.
Right. A genuine curator with a small following doesn't cycle through that much volume unless they're just running a turnstile to collect fees.
Precisely. If you spot that kind of extreme churn, the platform urges you to report it so they can remove those bad actors. It all comes back to treating your release strategy less like buying a lottery ticket and more like managing a professional portfolio.
That's a great way to put it.
The guide actually synthesizes all of this into a broader philosophy for long-term career building. It's a 4-step strategy.
And reading between the lines of that strategy, it really looks like a digital form of customer relationship management.
That's exactly what it is. Step 1 is deep research. Auditing those update frequencies and reading the curator bio so you aren't pitching steak to vegans.
Right. And step 2.
Step 2 is submitting via the dashboard to centralize your workflow. So you aren't just firing off emails into the void, you're actually tracking your acceptance and rejection rates to see what works.
And step 3 is where the real career building happens, right? The post-acceptance analysis.
Yes, analyzing performance. Getting onto a playlist is not the finish line. Once you are placed, you have to monitor your listener retention.
Because if a playlist delivers 5,000 streams, but you have a 90% skip rate within the first 10 seconds, you pitched the wrong room.
Exactly. You want to identify the curators whose audiences actually stay and engage, and then you target those specific relationships for your next release, which leads to step 4.
Building relationships. Treating these curators like colleagues rather than vending machines. When they add your song, you thank them publicly. You tag them on social media. You follow their collections.
Over a few release cycles, you transition from being an anonymous audio file in their queue to being a reliable, recognizable partner.
It completely demystifies the rejection process when you look at it that way. It transforms this massive, intimidating wall of gatekeepers into a logical set of parameters.
Polish the audio physics, verify your digital footprint, carve out a unique sound, and engage professionally. It's not a judgment of your soul. It's a structural checklist.
It's incredibly empowering to look at it that way. But you know what's wild to me about all of this? Rereading the sections on production and curation, there is a paradox in the data that I just can't stop thinking about.
Oh, the tension between the mastering advice and the curator policies.
Yes. The guide explicitly advises independent artists who lack a massive budget to utilize AI tools like Landar to perfectly optimize their dynamic range and EQ curves to industry standards.
Right.
But in the very same breath, it warns that an increasing number of curators are deploying automated tools and strict rules to filter out and reject AI-generated music.
It really points to a fascinating, somewhat dystopian horizon for the streaming ecosystem. I mean, if we were rapidly approaching a reality where an artist uses an algorithm to perfectly write, mix, and master a track, and a curator uses a different algorithm to automatically filter, select, and sequence those tracks.
At what point does music curation just become one machine pitching perfectly optimized audio directly to another machine? And in that closed algorithmic loop, where does the actual emotional human listener even fit in?
It's a huge question.
Something for you to chew on the next time you export that final mix. Keep creating, keep refining, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.